Good afternoon, Patriots. This is the American Vision, broadcast on the TLBTV network and brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Bill Muckler, and I'm the founder of the American Vision and the author of 2020, A Clear Vision for Our Future. And a 2020, A Clear Vision for Our America is really what, that's my first book. My second book is For Our Future, which I'm just about finished writing. So that's on my mind because that's what I'm working on all the time. So in 2020, A Clear Vision for America, the book was written for Americans. And so when we think of Americans, we like to think of those of us who live here in America, who are legal citizens of America. Now, some of us were born here. Some of us were naturalized here, but we were all legal. And the big thing now is, what about all the people who are here illegally and who were brought here illegally? And we're supposed to be compassionate about them, and we're supposed to want to do something for them, and we're supposed to not want to rip their families apart. But is that really what the issue is? Isn't the issue what's really happening in our country today, as far as why are we having all the problems we're having when we see people being shot, at school? That's what does that do say about our country? Well, now we got a big debate going on. We have to get rid of all the guns in America, assault guns, and nobody really knows what they are. And for me, being a Marine officer, I think I really have a pretty good handle on this, as do a lot of the vets. And we understand all this, and we understand what this is all about. But what about other things that we see in the streets? We see the DACAs burning the American flag, and they put the Mexican flag above the American flag. Now, is that all of them? I don't think so. It's probably a pretty general statement. But here's the thing what we have to be thinking about. Are we going to be a country of laws? Are we going to be ruled by law, or are we going to be ruled by emotion? And that's what this is all about. If we can be ruled by emotion, then we can get 800,000, which I don't believe that number is correct. I think it's really more like 1.6 million. Some people say as many as 3.5 million DACAs. Okay, what are DACAs? That's the dreamers. We all know about that. That's the people who were brought here, the children who were brought here unknowingly, against their will, and now we're supposed to say, well, we just make them citizens. Well, or we give them legal status. Well, I think that to be a citizen in this country, if you're going to come from another country, you should do it legally, and you should earn your citizenship. And you should do some things like go through the 10-step naturalization process. And that, probably needs to be refined and tweaked a little bit. But there's certainly a good working process. And why shouldn't they speak English? Our country is being ripped apart by this multiple language thing and this multiculturalism thing. Multiculturalism is not good for America. What good has it ever done? Can anybody tell me one good thing that's come from multiculturalism? And tell me one good thing that comes from having people speaking two different languages in one country. We see what happens in Canada. The people in Quebec don't like the rest of the Canadians, and the Canadians don't like the rest of the ones in Quebec, and they speak a separate language. So what we have to do is we have to start putting some common sense to all this, and we have to start thinking, what is really best for America? And that's why I wrote my book, 2020, A Clear Vision for America, was to get us to a point where we would have some common sense solutions in America. In the first place, we should insist that the immigrant, if the immigrant who comes here in good faith becomes an American and assimilates himself to us, he shall be treated on an exact equality with everyone else. For it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed or birthplace or origin. However, this is prejudiced upon the person's becoming in every facet an American and nothing but an American. There can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he is an American but something else also isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is loyalty to the American people. Now, I didn't come up with this. I didn't write this. That was written by somebody 100 years ago, actually a little bit more than 100 years ago. And that was Teddy Roosevelt wrote that. He said that actually, and it was written down for him. So here's the deal. How can we say we're going to make all these people dependents when our country was founded on independence? So what we really need to do is make sure that we keep our independence. And our country was founded on the Declaration of Independence, not the Declaration of Dependence. And our founders founded independence and the American spirit. And how is the American spirit going to work when we have our loyalty is to several languages and to several different nationalities and several different multiculturalism? That's several things right there. So let me tell you a little bit about Mexico, how they feel about people, because the Mexican government is the one who's really doing the lobbying for DACA, because they don't want them back there. They want them here, sending money back to them. That's what this is all about. And the Democrats, they want them here because they're a huge voting bloc for them, because the Democrats rely on dependence. The Republicans, the rhinos, depend on independence to some extent anyway. They're not completely on board with that, not the way some of us are. So anyway, the goats, the goofy Obama adoration team people, they're protective of their voting bloc. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things in Mexico, and I've got them listed here, and they're all in 2020, A Clear Vision for America, because I wrote all this stuff. So this is from chapter 13, and I'm going to give you this. And by the way, before I give you this, let me tell you, it's not just all Mexico, but we've got people coming in from other countries too. And I'm going to give you some stats on that. And all you have to do is get my book, and you can find all this stuff, because I've got everything in there. It's easy to read. It's easily presented. It's very readable. But we've got people coming in, not over the southern border, but also through the ports. And we've got 75 different nationalities coming into this country. And let me give you an example who some of them are. China. And this is a 6-month report, an intelligence report by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. China had, we caught 1,443 coming across the border from China, but we also caught 1,803 coming across the border, coming through the ports from China, which was 3,246. And is China really our best friend? Or what are they doing for us with North Korea? And I don't know if anybody trusts North Korea. Man, you need to call me up and talk to me about this, because I think I can explain some of this to you. From Pakistan, we caught 28 coming across the border and 211 coming through the port. So that's 239. So building this wall, really, we ought to build a seawall, shouldn't we? Although I'm not for the wall and I'm not for a seawall. I'm for locking down our borders. And as a Marine officer, I know how to do that. We know how to do it. All the vets know how to do that. From Egypt, we had 13 coming across the border and 168 coming through the ports. Yemen, we had them coming in the same numbers. Somalia, 290 caught at the ports. So think about this, and now what we want to do is we want to say, okay, we're going to give the DACAs legal status. Then what about the Pakistanis, the Somalis, and the Egyptians, and the Chinese are all coming across? Their countries will start lobbying for them, and they'll want them too. So here, if you're coming from Mexico, and I just want to get this in so you really have an idea what happens, what other countries do. If you're in Mexico, you have to be there legally. If you're there illegally, you're a felon. You're convicted of a felony, and that's punishable by 1 to 3 years in prison. That's the first time. The second time, they probably throw away the key. Here, they can come across the border half a dozen times and shoot anybody they want. And there's actually more people being killed by illegal drunk drivers in America than school children killed by assault rifles. Now, I don't want to see any kid killed by assault rifles, so don't go getting off and going crazy on me with this. I'm just trying to put this in a little bit of perspective for you here. If you really want to go after somebody, go after the automakers and have them quit making cars so the drunken illegal drivers won't drive cars. That makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense to me. Anyway, you have to have the means to sustain themselves economically. People come across our borders here and through our ports, they usually can't support themselves economically. They are not destined to be a burden on society or of economic and social benefit to society. In other words, they can add something, not just multiculturalism, and are of good character and have no criminal record. Whoa, no criminal record. Hey, the Democrats, they want all the criminals they can get in here, don't they? Because they vote. That's what the deal is all about. They have to contribute to the general well-being of the nation. The immigration authorities have a record for each foreign visitor. Guess what? Do we have a record? We have no idea who's here. All these numbers we hear, I don't believe any of them. No, they're just estimates. They're guesstimates. They're just ballpark numbers. Hey, we think it's this, we think it's that. If we tell them this number, it'll make it sound good for our cause and, promote our cause. Okay. Foreign visitors cannot violate their visa status and are banned from interfering in the country's internal politics. What are the DACA people doing? In interfering in our internal politics, right? They cannot violate the terms of entry. If they are, they're imprisoned and deported. And those who aid in illegal immigration will be sent to prison. Guess what? If you aid an illegal alien in Mexico, you're sent to prison. In here, it's a giveaway. You get money or something like that. So that's what we're talking about as far as the difference between America and Mexico and why we're supposed to be held to a much higher standard than that. But it's got nothing to do with higher standards. It's got to do with the rule of law. Okay, now I'd like to change the subject a little bit. We've been hearing about all these fantastic numbers about the employment rate being the lowest it's been in decades or centuries or millenniums or years or months or something like that. But I don't believe those numbers any more than anybody should believe any of the numbers. And I don't believe in giving credit to anybody for those numbers. However, the fact that we've reduced regulations and we've got a new tax plan has certainly had an impact, a positive impact on the employment numbers. Now, some of you are very concerned about the market. The market has nothing to do with the economy of this country. The market's just an indicator of 30 blue chip industrial stocks. And that's not what the country's based on. The country, yeah, they have an impact on it, and they're an indicator. But that's not the whole purpose. That's not the whole story. So what we have here in America is still one of the lowest unemployment participation rates that we've ever had. And it's somewhere around 62.7% the last I saw last year. So let's just say it's about 62.5%, and I'm just saying that because that's 5/8. That's an easy percentage. If we raise the labor participation rate up to 2/3, around 67%, we would add about 8 million people to the payroll. But we've got more than 50 million people on welfare because they won't do jobs Americans won't do. And so we say, well, we have to have illegals come in and DACAs, so they'll do the jobs the Americans won't do who are on welfare, who are on subsistence, who are on Section 8 housing, who can't go to work because they won't get paid as much as their Section 8 housing and their welfare checks and their EBT cards, that's food stamps, and all the rest of the giveaways that make them dependent. So what we want to do is we want to bring in cheap labor. So isn't that really an insult to the people that are coming in, the Mexicans, the Chinese people? To me, we're saying, hey, you do the real lousy, dirty jobs that Americans won't do so we can have Americans on dependency, and then we'll get all of you voting, and then we'll get somebody to increase the labor rate up to $15 an hour. And you don't have to have any skills to do that. You don't have to work your way up. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is, hey, just come in and vote for the goat, vote with the goats, and you're golden. And we'll get all those dumb, oh, I can't say that, all those stupid rhinos who are the taxpayers to go ahead and support you. And then when it gets up to 50%, it's about 49% now of the people get on dependency against, and what's going to happen then? We lose the country, but then nobody's got a real vision. And that's why I wrote my book, and I say on here, where there is no vision, the people perish. And that's what's going to happen to America. We're going to perish. And I didn't make this up. I got this from Proverbs. And I'm going with Proverbs over what the goats have to say. And I'm going with Proverbs over what the political establishment, no matter whether they're goats or rhinos, have to say. And as I said before, I plagiarized this, and I said, where the American people have no vision, the American people will perish. And surely if we go down this nightmare road, this dark road of DACA, we will perish, because multiculturalism has never done anything for America, and dependency has never done anything for America. Our country was not built on dependency and multiculturalism. So that's pretty much where we are. And what we have to do is we got to stand straight and stand tall, and we got to make sure that we protect our country, and we protect our rule of law, and we protect our Constitution. And that's really what we have to do. So in closing, I want you all to read my book, and it's really a good buy. And I know you spend more money going out and buying fast food dinners than you would on my book, and you spend a lot of money on a lot of things. And what you really have to do is start spending money on your future, and start thinking about, what our vision for America could be and should be. And you have to start thinking about, hey, how do we solve the problems that we have in America today? I just went over one very brief problem today, and that's immigration and DACA. And I've got a chapter 13 that has the best immigration plan that's ever been written. And it's written very simply, and then my people in my book my characters in my book, they tell the story by just chatting with each other, talking this out, using common sense. And they do it by all the principles that have made, America great. And so 20 issues, 20 problems, and 20 power-packed solutions, all written in 2020, A Clear Vision for Our America, which also includes the greatest tax plan that's ever been devised. And so what I want to wish you all, folks, is God bless America. God bless every one of you. God bless our core. And God save our America, because we need you now more than ever before.